Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another show of Luca Podcast here. Today, I am joined with Lubbock Mayoral Candidate Steve Massengale. As many of you know, myself ran with our founder, Antonio Tony Renteria, for mayor, but we did have a runoff here in Lubbock. Mr. Massengale here is one of those candidates that are in the runoff, and we just really wanted to come on and share a little bit about why Luca and Tony himself, as the CEO and a longtime resident of Lubbock, decided to get behind Steve Massengale. And Steve, we both of us feel that you will be an exemplary mayor for Lubbock. You've served in the city council for how many years now?
I've served on the council for 8 years. Was served on the Lubbock School Board for 8 years prior to that.
Nice. And so, let's kind of just jump into, why you're, what your background is and why you're running for mayor for the city of Lubbock.
Sure. Thanks, Melinda. And thanks for having me on. It's really an honor to be here with you. And again, you mentioned your founder, Tony Renteria, and his endorsement of me. I'm grateful for the support. So I grew up here in Lubbock. I'm a small business owner that went to Texas Tech. I've been creating jobs since I was 16 years old.
Wow.
I've actually never had a real job because I've always been a small business owner, but have done that and cut my teeth early on in community service with some work with Texas Tech.
Nice.
Was part of a group of business leaders that helped Texas Tech transition from the Southwest Conference to the Big 12. So I learned a little about politics and getting things done then.
Which is important.
Yeah. I spent some time at the Chamber of Commerce after that, where I was asked to lead their board. And that really helped me get in touch with the business community and understanding what moved the business community. And as chairman of the board, I got to fight City Hall. And so I learned some things there. And from there, as I mentioned, I served on the Lubbock School Board, where I left as president of the board. And then the past 8 years, I've served District 4 in Lubbock on the city council. And I've also served as the mayor pro tem.
That is awesome. Yes. Thank you for your lifetime service. I mean, we often speak a lot, especially with our organization, Luca, and we were kind of discussing a little bit about the importance of that, involvement in your communities. And many of us really need to understand, and we are now, how important it really is to be involved, because we learn how, government policies, things like that affect our day-to-day lives. And so, people like you that decide to run and decide to get in there to make a difference. And so thank you. And it takes a lot, because we've ran a campaign and it's a lot of work.
Sure.
And yeah,
I can tell you, as someone who served for a long time, we appreciate organizations like yours, like Luca, that stay engaged, because you can't do all the work by yourself. You've got to make sure that you've got like-minded people in the background that can support you and get input from as you move forward and try to do things that are right for the community.
Oh, absolutely. And so, even us with our organization and our founder, we are very thankful that we can have the ear of those that are in office, because that's how we make a difference in the community. And with our organization, getting out there on the front lines and really paying attention to things that we see coming down the pipeline or that are affecting our communities, and to have that special relationship with, people like yourself and others. That's how we make a difference. That's how we impact the communities, and the fact that the people feel that they have a say and that, in what's happening in their city. That's huge. So we're really thankful about that. Let's really talk about the crime, because as I shared with you, I'm from New Mexico, and I've lived now in Lubbock for a year, and I didn't realize just how bad the crime was, in Lubbock. And our founder, Tony, was sharing with me that we are 4th for bad violent crimes in the whole state of Texas. And, so that's something that really needs to, an issue that needs to be worked on. And so what is your stance on crime here? And tell us a little bit about, what your ideas are.
Sure. It's a great question. I would say it's probably the question that we hear during the campaign. If you look at our city charter, crime is the number one job of the city, the mayor and the city council.
Yeah.
We recently had our police department give us our crime report for the year, and that's the same crime data that's reported to the FBI. We've made some progress on that. Most of Lubbock's crime is gang and drug related.
Mm.
And make no mistake that an open border south of us has an impact of crime on Lubbock. And
Oh,
so,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, we've got to make sure that our police department is resourced in a way that they can do the job that we expect them to do. We recently hired a new police chief. As a matter of fact, we're recording this today on June 3rd, and today was his first day.
Oh,
So that's significant in our fight against crime in our community. I will tell you that if I'm elected mayor, we will have a discussion with the council about crime. I'm going to ask them to set some priorities and give clear direction to staff so that we're all on the same page, because citizens and neighborhoods are concerned with crime. Businesses in Lubbock are concerned with crime.
oh, absolutely. And we do, like you said, with the wide open border, we do not, that's the easiest way for that number to skyrocket. I mean, I was watching earlier and we saw in, was it, I forgot New York, but, some of the migrants from Venezuela actually, shot at and attacked our police officers.
Yeah,
So
I saw
that
that.
is, yeah, absolutely. And that's a scary thought because we don't know who's here. They're not vetted. And when we don't get those types of immigrants that, want to assimilate to our American way of life, and they come from crime ridden areas, that's all they know. And
Yes,
so,
you're
that,
correct.
yeah,
And you referenced New York, and people don't realize, even when we're sitting here in Lubbock, actually how close we are. We're only a few hours from the border, and any type of that criminal activity that moves up through those communities all the way to here. And Lubbock's one of the biggest cities as you come up that direction
right.
from the border. And so we have our own issues here, but I have a lot of confidence in our police force, and as mayor, I'm certainly prepared to support them.
That is wonderful, wonderful. Now let's talk a little bit, because I know even on the campaign trail and in some of the debates, the issues with dangerous dogs. That's another thing, that I learned about here in Lubbock. What do you propose, and what do you think, as mayor, needs to be done to have that issue handled?
Sure. We've heard from lots of citizens on the campaign trail about things related to neighborhoods. And, as a city councilman, you hear about things that aren't as significant, like my dumpster lid's broken or there's potholes in my street. But we also
Right.
hear from citizens that they don't feel safe because there's might be dogs loose. Now, when you look at dogs, you say, why do we have a dog problem? I say, well, actually, we have a human problem that's not taking care of the dogs.
Right.
But nevertheless, I think we've got to take a hard look and see what we can do to help our animal control in this regard. I think it's something that Lubbock citizens are expecting. Now, do you just throw money at it? I don't know that just throwing money may be part of the solution, but I think there's some public relations piece of this, greater education of people that we can do to make sure people understand the responsibility of having animals. And
Right.
when you're in the situation where you can't handle that animal or be responsible for it, there are ways and agencies that will help you get that animal new home.
Right.
And I think there's some public-private partnership opportunity here with many of the vets that we already work with. We have great veterinarians in our community to help with that, but it is a problem, and I think it's a place where the mayor and the city council can help bring a solution.
Wonderful. Now, what about like the dog pound? I mean, what does that agency look like, and what do they do to help with this issue as well?
Sure, animal control, they're probably stretched thin on staffing and funding versus the demand. But I think that's a conversation we'll have if I'm mayor on what additional resources we can get to them, maybe some more enforcement officers so they can be responsive. But I think there's a combination of things we do to solve that problem, and it's not all money, but I think money could be part of it.
Absolutely. I know that solves a lot of things, especially, when you need resources and people to do the job. Now let's talk a little bit. I know you've heard a lot about Broadway Street, and from what I hear from other citizens of Lubbock, they're not real happy with that street, are they? So let's talk a little bit about what your ideas and your stance is on this, and to
Sure. No, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking it. I mean, Broadway is our oldest street that connects I-27 to our major university, one of the largest universities in the country. And I think Broadway falls into that bucket of infrastructure. And Lubbock, we're fortunate as a community that our citizens supported the 2022 street bond, $200 million of additional street construction. In Lubbock, we're behind on our street construction. We have a hard time keeping up with our housing development, and you'd really like to get to the point where you build the streets and the homes come. Right now, the homes come and we build the streets later. So I think as mayor, I would have a conversation about our immediate street needs, and Broadway would be in there. One of the polarizing issues with Broadway seems to be currently it's a brick street and it's over 100 years old and it hasn't been repaired or replaced. I mean, some places it's been repaired, some places it's been repaired poorly. They say, some people drive down it. If you're in the right kind of car, you can rattle your teeth out of it.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what it would take to fix that. Pull
a lot of
everybody
money. But I think what we've got to do is make sure we get the biggest bang for the taxpayer buck on that. And there have been some requests to do it in all brick. And I think that's probably more of a want than a need. And we build streets all the time. And I believe there's a way to look at the cost associated with Broadway and try to reduce that cost. And I think we can honor the legacy of the bricks at the same time, maybe build brick crosswalks. I've seen different communities do that. But at some point as a community, we've got to tackle Broadway. And, this new council is the council that needs to make those decisions and lay a plan in place to move forward with it.
Yeah, because I can only imagine, to just have to keep up with the repairs. At what point is it, like you said, it's almost throwing money away, because when it gets that old, the repair cost is going to just continue to skyrocket. And then you might as well just replace it. So then that way it's new and you won't have that issue.
It's more costly to repair a brick street than an asphalt or a concrete street. And so you have to take those things into consideration, because remember, we're spending other people's money when we spend tax dollars, and we've got to do it in as efficient way as possible. One thing I'll just add to this is what Broadway's important to and contributes to also is downtown revitalization. And downtown Lubbock, you said you've been here for a year, and I don't know how much time you spent downtown, but it's made a lot of progress in the past years. And, young people today look for those downtown environments to relocate to. And sometimes they actually are looking for great downtowns before they decide where they want to work. And so I think Lubbock can be that. I'm supportive of downtown redevelopment. Broadway's a piece of that as we check those boxes off. But Broadway needs to get rebuilt.
Absolutely. Now, here's a question, because I'll tell you, being a citizen here, and I'm also a grandmother, I have grandkids here. So this is a question, and I hear it a lot, that people say there is nothing to do in Lubbock. They say, there's a lot of restaurants, churches, and bars, and we're a college town. So I think people are looking, and I saw the article, and I know, they were talking about a huge water park. I guess there's only one here, but people are really looking for other things to do in Lubbock. And so, and coming from a small town in New Mexico, one thing that I did learn is, especially for the youth, if they don't have anything to do, this is how they get involved in crimes, drugs, and everything. So tell us, Steve, a little bit about, how would you answer some of the people in Lubbock and parents, grandparents like myself, because it's hot over here and there are no there are really there are not very many, places that people can go. They can take their kids swimming or things like that, unless you live in an apartment. So tell us a little bit about, those questions.
Sure, another great question. Well, I might differ with them a little bit because I think Lubbock does have some great things to go and participate in from an entertainment perspective, from Buddy Holly Hall to the other live music venues we have to the adventure park. We have a great trail system, and we're in the middle of expanding that trail system, mountain biking, great parks. But here's the point, and you make a great point with is what do we have to keep our youth active and engaged? And one thing that is a very hot topic this in the past couple of weeks here is the fact that the city has not been able to open any of its pools for the summer.
Mm.
And it's unfortunate because those pools have outlived their useful life. It's hard to get parts for them. And but that's an activity that would give young people something to do. And so, what I've heard from citizens, especially on the campaign trail, is that they missed the pools, and so we need to find a solution for that moving forward. And I think that's a conversation that's not necessarily a council conversation, but I think that's an opportunity for the council to have town halls or get a way to get input from community members to see what we really want as a community in aquatics moving forward. Some communities, especially in Texas, are building facilities that can be used all year long. In Lubbock, the pools have only ever been used from Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Yeah.
And they build community centers with those. Sometimes they add libraries in and have other activities for youth during the summer. So that is, again, everything costs money.
Yeah.
And you're also, again, I'll remind everybody that when we talk money, we're spending taxpayer dollars, and
Right.
we have to be smart how we do that. But I would welcome the conversation. I think pools are part of the answer to your question.
Yeah.
And we're kind of in a pool crisis right now, but I look forward to working with the community and finding some type of solution to that.
Wonderful. I think that'll answer a lot. Now let's talk about, because this is very important, let's talk about jobs.
Okay.
Yeah. Share with the audience about, your thoughts on bringing, whether it be new jobs or revitalizing other things that maybe, you feel as mayor that Lubbock really has a need for.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's all about great jobs. I think if you're in this job and you deliver, that you look back and you can say you created great jobs. And the past time I've been on the council, we've created opportunities for 14,000 great jobs in Lubbock.
Oh, wow.
And these cannot, I'm not talking about $12 an hour jobs. I'm talking about jobs that allow families to buy homes and go on vacation in the summer. And I think that makes the difference. I was part of two projects. One was related to XFAB and the other Luprino. You may have heard of we have a cheese factory coming to Lubbock.
Nice.
$1.5 billion of private investment. The Luprino project produces over 600 new jobs, new great jobs. And to me, that makes a difference for Lubbock families. And
Yes.
I was honored to be a part of the team that negotiated that deal. And as a mayor, that's one differentiating thing between me and my opponent is I'm pro-growth, and he really struggles with supporting growth. And this is something that
True.
that Tony would have visited with you about. He and I see eye to eye on this. Is we've got to find a way for those projects that want to come in and invest in our community to do so. A project that was talked about in the campaign a lot was in South Overton, was a student housing project.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, the council reheard this last week and passed on first reading, which I was thankful for. But a project like that puts $1 million annually back into the general fund via property tax. And a project like that pays first responders, and it gives the council the ability to keep the tax rate low. And you can't have both. You can't say I'm anti-growth and I want low taxes, because one doesn't support the other.
Right.
And so I think that's something your listeners and viewers should take away from our podcast today is that how important it is to be pro growth because
Mhm.
that creates great jobs. That's that helps keep the tax rate low.
Absolutely, yeah, and I know that was one of the things that Tony, we did talk about that a lot, and
Mhm.
he said, that's a major subject that Steve and I both can agree on, and so he spoke very highly about you when it came to infrastructure and job growth, and because essentially, I mean, that's growth for the city in a whole. That brings in money because right now the budget doesn't look that great for Lubbock, obviously. So that's wonderful, and that was one of the biggest things that he says that he absolutely really appreciates about you is that you are pro growth and pro infrastructure. Now there was also another issue by the citizens of Lubbock, and I think if you want to touch a little bit on that about the sewer ordinance, if you want to share with the audience about that.
So the sewer ordinance is a great learning process.
Mhm.
As a council, the entire council approved a sewer ordinance that, in simple terms, pushed, let me say it this way, inadvertently pushed a large financial burden back onto the homeowners. It
Honor.
wasn't the intention. The intention was to be more responsive because the city was handling that part and they were falling behind. Um, Unintended consequences teach you a hard lesson. And I think we all realized at the end of the day that we overburdened homeowners. We also created the challenge for contractors. And so I sponsored the ordinance to be put back and put back the way it was.
Yeah.
And that passed council. And since then, the council has appointed a citizen-led committee to take a look at that. And I'm look forward to them finding a solution that protects homeowners,
Mhm.
finds a great way for our contractors to be partners, and allows the city to be responsive. And I think the council will hear their results in July, maybe. But it was a hot topic. I think we were able to get back to a point where we were protecting homeowners,
Yes.
and we look forward to the solution coming forth
Right.
in
Yeah.
July.
I mean, and quite honestly, that was one of the biggest, it was a hot topic. And that
It
was one of
was.
the
Mhm,
main issues that we heard about even when we were doing our own campaign,
mhm.
when Tony was running. So I'm glad to hear that because it was a major concern for many homeowners. They were, fairly upset about it, but that's wonderful that, you're able to get that back up there. And because again, just like now we're living in an inflation and we just never know what's going to come from the federal government down that's going to affect us all as not just as a state but even trickle down into the cities. So when you think about the people already being in inflation and then having to have a cost like that, it becomes very burdensome and very scary for homeowners.
Yeah, yeah, and beyond all else, no one ever wants their sewer line down. So
No, gosh, no, not at all. Now, right now this is a race against you and Mark McBrayer. Um, Now let's talk about what makes you different. What is the difference between you as Mayor Massengale and Mark, becoming mayor?
well, several things. I'll touch on a couple. One is I come with a lot more experience than Mark. Mark wasn't able to finish his first term as city council. He had to resign. But my experience is a difference. This whole pro growth, anti growth,
Mm,
um, the way I support business to me, that floats all ships. And I think at the end of the day, that helps us with taxes and provides us with a way that we can continue to deliver all the services to our citizens. And
yeah.
so I think those are the big differentiating factors between Mark and I.
Okay, great. And you spoke about taxes, and that's one of the things that I did. That's a topic that I didn't bring up. So let's talk about taxes and the tax rate for the citizens of Lubbock.
Sure. Lubbock's fortunate. If you look at 15 comparable cities in Texas and looked at the tax rate, Lubbock's tax rate is in the lower third of those 15 cities. And
Mm,
so that's something to be proud of it.
Yeah.
You know, in the campaign, there's been a tremendous amount of misinformation about tax rate and how I've handled taxes. The tax rate at the city of Lubbock right now is 10.8% lower than when I first got on the council. I've taken every opportunity to lower the tax rate. Now, where I have supported adjustments in the tax rate are for public safety. I'm a huge supporter of public safety. The firefighters have endorsed me. And that's one of those things that when you serve in the public, if you fall behind, you quickly fall behind and it's very difficult to keep up. As a matter of fact, if you don't keep up with it, the cost of getting you back to the point you were or re-attracting those quality men and women in the fire and police department becomes more expensive than going ahead and outlaying the resources for it at the time. And so there's some misinformation on taxes out there. I was on the school board for 8 years, never raised the tax rate.
Yeah.
And it's just something that comes from their camp that is just misconstrued.
Gotcha. Now, before, I just wanted to make sure we had some time for you to really be able to just give you the floor. And if there's anything that you feel that you would like to touch base on and speak about, anything that you might be enduring, things said, whatnot, that
Sure.
Now that you're running for while you're on your campaign.
Sure. We got a couple things I'd love to talk about. One I talked about on the radio this morning, and that was the fact that their camp is putting out that I supported the funding and the purchase of Citizens Tower. So Citizens Tower is a new city hall, just so you know. It was constructed. It was a repurposed project out of a building that was abandoned that the city council prior to my election bought. But that building was bought and funded prior to my getting on the council. I was not the one that led the charge. As a matter of fact, my position has always been that voters should be included in large projects.
Yeah.
And part of my campaign in 2016 was including voters in that project. And my position is still the same. Some other projects I was involved with was what we call the Public Safety Improvement Project. Our police had been in facilities that had outlived their useful life, and we proposed a solution to bring community policing to Lubbock and put patrol division stations or substations out closer to the neighborhoods, and that cost money.
Yeah.
And one thing I did as we were delivering that project is I had asked the council to consider putting that on a ballot so that the voters could vote on it. Unfortunately, I was outvoted on that. But again, my stance has been clear on large projects. Voters need to be involved. And those were expensive projects. The council went ahead and moved forward with those regardless of how I felt about them. But that's definitely something that's been conveyed, I guess I would say, a tremendous amount of misinformation on the campaign trail. And so I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to clear that up.
Oh, absolutely. Because we are now down to 2 candidates. So it's very important because that's what happens. Things are going to get thrown out there and be said. So, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to be, to really clear some things up. And you said was there a second one?
Oh, we could talk about 2 or 3. Another one is South Plains College. South Plains College is now housed in the old city hall in downtown Lubbock. Lubbock was the largest city in Texas that didn't have a downtown community college presence. And I think access to students, especially in our lower socioeconomic areas of our city, are important. And if it's not accessible, they may not avail themselves of it. So anyway, long story short is I pitched the project to South Plains College, and people have criticized me for that, but I believe that's workforce development. I believe that contributes to downtown revitalization. It strengthens the partnership between South Plains College and Texas Tech. And again, I think overall it's great for the community.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Steve, we are at our time, but I just really wanted to thank you, for taking some time out because we know how busy you are and, coming in and speaking on our platform so that since Tony and I are citizens of Lubbock and Tony and you're really great friends, to be able to use our platform as well to get your voice out there and let people know why Lucas stands behind Steve Massengale for mayor, and and just for your own words to let let our followers and our supporters. We just really wanted to make sure that we could get the word out there on why everything that we spoke about is why we are in support of you. Was it today? Yeah, or yesterday? Early voting has begun.
Mhm.
So, and we know Lubbock, sadly, I speak about this a lot, has a very low voter turnout. So we're really, asking everybody, this is so important. This is our home. This is our backyard. I've got grandkids here. What happens in our school, just everything that we get in, we have to show up and we have to vote. So, we're going to do everything we can with our organization to push and to really hope that people get out there and vote.
Well, thank you very much. I just want you to know it's my honor to be on with you today. I'm grateful to be endorsed by Luca
Yes.
and Tony, and I appreciate my time with you today and all y'all are going to do for the campaign.
Absolutely. And just know we are having our Lubbock meeting, our Lubbock team meeting tomorrow. So, one of the things is that we like to get out there and really help our endorsed candidates. So you make sure you let us know if you need anything. And Luca's going to be right there. Okay.
Sounds great. Thanks
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks
You too.
everybody for
Bye-bye.
tuning in. All right.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye.